Alright, finally going through the Suburban brakes, trying to get this apart, pulling the set screws on the brake drum. One came out, the other one did not. Fingers crossed this works. I'm not overly optimistic. Oh, got lucky. Try not to grab the hot part. I'm getting some wiggle. Okay, I forgot to hit record and the phone just sat on the tripod for a while, but I ended up getting all the brake drums off. The pads are actually in pretty good shape, still together, lots of meat left on them. All of the internal parts are still in good shape, so we're going to keep all of those. I did get the wheel cylinders out. These were super crusty. A little bit of leaking, a bunch of like sludge from sitting in there. So basically looking up part numbers, since this is kind of an oddball being a full-size heavy-duty one. I was able to pull part numbers off the original castings that were on here and get all the parts ordered to rebuild these. The backs were just about the same as the fronts. Everything's in good shape except for the actual wheel cylinders. This was running and driving and kind of stopping. The brakes just didn't work that well. So just waiting on parts now, and then we'll get the fresh brakes back on this. Hopefully I'll try and remember to have the camera on for the install. But other than that, thing still starts and runs and drives great, shifts fine, just doesn't stop that well, so we're just going to freshen up the essential mechanicals and see what else we got to do on this thing. Once the parts show up, we'll come back and re-tackle the brakes on this, and I'll pull the wheels on the other side and keep chugging along. Wheel cylinders on these old cars are pretty straightforward. Usually got one or two bolts typically that hold them in place. And the brake lines on the older ones, a lot of the times the brake lines are going to be super rusted out and beat to crap. I recommend replacing them when you can, especially if you're going through the whole brake system. On this, this being an Arizona truck, I've never actually had a car that came apart this easy. All the brake lines and the bleeder screws, the first time we bled the brakes, popped right out, no effort whatsoever. Everything was perfect on that. Everything came apart the way it was supposed to. No struggles there. I did have to bang on the drums a little bit. That's pretty standard practice. But in terms of everything else on this, like I said, the brakes came apart really easy. They bled really easy. The lines are all in really good shape. There's a little bit of surface rust on them, but not anywhere near what your typical Midwest car would have. We got 2 bolts on this rear wheel cylinder. This was also really hard to find because nothing in the parts listing showed this style axle, being the 3/4 ton that it is. Luckily I found one thing on like an eBay posting or something like that, and it had all the info with the right style. The fronts were kind of a pain too, because the only ones that I could find for the part numbers listed were the incorrect tight. They had a little tab on there, which is, I think, the standard GM style. But we got lucky. A little bit of searching on the internet. It took way longer than I thought it would have to order parts for GMC. Which I guess makes this kind of another one of the oddball vehicles that I always end up collecting. The truck's kind of a goofy year. The van's definitely a goofy year in terms of parts availability and things like that. Add one more to the fleet. Not the worst in the world. It's a little bit more difficult. You gotta kind of know what you're doing when you're getting into doing these. It's not like a Mustang or a Camaro where parts are dime a dozen. It takes a little bit of thought and research. If anybody has a lead on where I can get locks for this thing, or not locks, but door latches, being a Suburban, I know I can get the front doors, but I'm having a real hard time trying to find parts for the barn doors. Anybody knows of anything, or knows of any leads on anybody that's got a junk set or a set sitting out, please let me know. Got the left rear side working, but the right side is in need of some love. Wheel cylinders in. I'm trying to hook up the brake line on the back side of this. It's fighting me a little bit, but got it all in place. These are the lines that I was telling you about. Like, they're not in the greatest of shape. However, they're not bad at all. Whatever rust is on here is surface rust. If I start scrubbing on any of this, it cleans up to nice bare metal again. And everything came apart as it should when I did this, which is amazing to me. Let me get this hooked up and then we'll meet you at the front. All right, wheel cylinder is installed. Kind of fought me a little bit. This hard line, even though it came out okay and the fitting came out okay, trying to get these threads restarted in a cylinder can sometimes be really tedious. It's not hard, it lines up, but it just doesn't seem to grab those first couple of threads. But got that all in now. I'll crack the bleeder screw just so it's ready to go, and then we'll try and gravity bleed it once we get the other side blasted apart and go to that step. But the wheel cylinder's on. Now I get to start messing with the rest of these drum and axle pieces. Hopefully I can remember how this came apart, because it's been apart for a couple days. Alright, pulling the axle out to get the brake drum right now. Lock tab in here. One. Yep. One star washer type lock tab. There's the lock tab. There's one detent that gets bent into the groove. I have another one on the back side. Catches into the groove in the star washer. There we go. One washer with another lock ring on it. I'll leave the bearing in there for now. This drum's pretty seized on here. Alright, big heavy truck part. Never mind! Oh, this spring's broken. That'll explain part of it. The whole hook on here is supposed to go up to here. That's good. And I don't know if I can find a spring kit for this. The lower springs are okay. Pads on this side look like they're in actually pretty good shape. See what you guys can see or can't see here. Again, I got the new wheel cylinders, but the pads in here don't look too terrible. Definitely been stuck. No e-brake on this because it's got a trans brake. One good spring, one broken spring, so I gotta figure out where I'm gonna find one of these. Hopefully I can just get it at the parts store and have them send one out. Everything else is okay. We're gonna pull the wheel cylinder anyway, but we'll be back.